I have offended God and mankind because my work did not reach the quality it should have. That quote was by Leonardo da Vinci, arguably the greatest artist to ever live. And what was he describing? I believe he may have been describing the guilt that comes from not reaching your potential. See, potential is the gap between the person I could become and the person I am right now. Every time I get worse, I move further and further and further away from that person, and vice versa. If I get better, I'm moving towards the person I could be. The thing is, we never actually reach our potential. That's because potential is not some line you cross and say, yes, I finally reached my potential. No, potential means getting better every day because the person you could become is always going to get better. So you have to get better with it in order to be on the path of fulfilling your potential. One way to see potential is a wall. Potential is a wall I choose to never stop climbing. So this wall is infinite long, but if I keep on climbing the wall, I'm moving on the path of fulfilling my potential. But few people actually do this. Instead, when they get to a certain point in the wall, let's say they get right here, they say, hey, that's good enough for me. I'm better than this person, and I'm better than this person. So they compare themselves to other people. But when you compare yourself to other people, you're not wise. I love what the Bible says. It says, those who compare themselves among themselves, measuring themselves by themselves, are not wise. And why is that? Well, one reason is because you have different gifts than the other person. You have different talents and abilities. So you could put in less effort, than this person, and this person could reach their potential, but you not, even though you got a better outcome than they did. Because success is not based on the outcome, it's based on the input. Because we can't control the outcomes we get in life. We can only influence them through our own efforts. And that's what Leonardo da Vinci was describing. Even though he's arguably the greatest artist of his time, the greatest artist in history, he still didn't reach his potential because he knew he could have done more. So if he compared himself to other people, he could say, yes, I did all I could do, but he knew that wasn't the case. And God also knows that isn't the case. I love what Jesus tells us in Matthew 25, how there's a master who went out and he gave 3 servants money to be able to trade and be able to make more for him while he's off. He came back and one person, the master gave 5 talents or money, and that person made 5 more. To the other person, he gave 2, that person made 2 more, and to one, he didn't make any. So the master praised the person who made 5 as much as he praised the person who made 2. He said, well done, good and faithful servant. So even though one person made more, to much is given, much is required in return. So the person who got 5, he reached his potential by making 5 more. Person got 2, reached a potential by making 2 more. It's not in comparison to other people. It's in comparison to what you can do. That's why success is based upon the inputs and not the outputs. But we have to have a higher standard for ourselves. One way to see standards is as a mental line I refuse to go under. Right? So a standard is what I'm choosing to make acceptable to myself. And the thing about standards is we can all determine what standards we choose to set. One example I have for myself, one standard I make for myself is in the food I eat. I don't eat any sweets, like no sweets whatsoever. That's just a standard I have for myself. Sweets and ice cream, let's say you got ice cream right here and you got cake right here. Well, that I have a standard for myself. I refuse to go under that standard and eat that food. My standard is right here. I refuse to eat all this food under here. That's just a standard I have for myself. It's a mental line I choose not to cross. But a lot of people don't set any standards. So they default to whatever is easiest to them. And easiest may be eating the cake and maybe eating the ice cream. That's easy in the moment because you're just doing whatever is default. But by having a standard, guess what you're doing? You're setting a higher default. So if I'm down here, I know I have to get up here. If I'm up here, I know I can get down here and still be successful and still be on the path of reaching my potential because I'm following the high standard I set for myself. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the power of expectations. An expectation is a future imagined outcome. It's what we make up in our minds about the future. And we can choose to imagine good things in our future, or we can choose to imagine terrible things in our future. And so many people imagine bad things. Why? One reason why is because that's what they're accustomed of doing. They failed so many times in the past, it's hard for them to have a belief. It's hard for them to consistently meditate on a thought that's inconsistent to results they've gotten for themselves. So, what should they do? What can we do if we can only imagine bad outcomes? We have to create better outcomes for ourselves. We have to choose to stay on the path of reaching our potential. Because if we stay down here, we're going to keep going for these bad standards, keep going for these bad expectations, and we're never going to get back on that path. Another reason why I love that quote by Leonardo da Vinci is because he's talking about opportunities in life. See, life is full of opportunities that we can either make or miss based upon how much work we're putting in. See, let's say this line represents your life, right? And that is just the time you have in your life. And you have different goals throughout your lifetime. Let's say one goal is making the NBA, right? That's the goal. So when we have that goal, we start putting in work towards the goal. And as we put in work, we're getting closer and closer and closer to the goal we want to accomplish. But let's say we miss a workout right here, and let's say we don't go to practice right here. Okay, we're getting better, getting better, getting better. But let's say we decide to take a vacation and then we don't work out for a month and then we get better, right? So this gap right here, that is your potential. This is where you could be, but this is where you are right now. And the time frame, the opportunity has come for you to make the NBA. But because you weren't ready, because you weren't good enough, your opportunity has now passed. So even if later in time, later in life, you are good enough to make the NBA, well, you're not going to make that outcome because you haven't got better within the time frame you needed to get better. Because notice, look at this. You missed your workout right here. You went on vacation right here. Time did not stop moving. Time kept going. But because you didn't improve, you actually got worse. Now the person who is staying on the path of their potential is going to reach the outcome because they didn't have these middle setbacks. See, I love a Bible verse that relates to this. It says, redeeming the time because the days are evil. Redeeming is to buy up, is to make the most of every opportunity. Because in life, as we saw, opportunities, they come and they pass. I love what Eric Thomas says. He says, you have to take advantage of an opportunity of a lifetime in the lifetime of the opportunity. I had an opportunity of making the NBA, but that was an opportunity lifetime. But because I didn't take advantage of it, it's gone. I didn't redeem my time in that sense. So what should we do? How can we make sure to take advantage of opportunities in life? How can we make sure we're always on the path of fulfilling our potential? Well, one way to do it is by avoiding complacency. Like I said, complacency is when I settle for an outcome that's beneath my potential. And guess what? Every time you do that, you're going to get worse. That's because entropy comes in and destroys any progress you made. I like to say it like this. All progress requires attention, but regression only requires neglect. If I want to get better, if I want to reach my potential in an area of my life, I have to put in intentional and deliberate effort in the area I want to prove. But to get worse, all I have to do is neglect it. All I have to do is choose to be complacent because entropy comes in and is going to make me worse. As we saw with the example, I didn't do any work right here, so I wasn't right here later in time. No, I was down here. I got worse because entropy comes in and destroys the progress I made. So to reach our potential, we have to make sure to avoid complacency because when we're not doing anything, when we're not getting better, we're going to get worse. Now, the second thing we need to do is flee from distractions. See, distractions is what keeps us from fulfilling our potential because the person who's on the path of potential, the person we could become, is never going to get bothered by distractions. Imagine that person you could be if you never wasted any time. That is your potential. So every time you waste time, you're moving further and further away from that person you could have become. Now, someone may ask, hey, does that mean I have to put in work 24/7? No, because rest is productive. I love a frame Alex Hormozy used. He talked about a person who wanted to become the best video game player in the world. Well, hypothetically, if we were making that person, we would make that person play video games 24/7. right? But eventually, he's not going to get too much better if he continues to play video games without resting. So, rest in that case, in that scenario, is productive. So, the goal we have, the question to ask, is how little rest do we need in order to stay productive, in order to have the most inputs we can possibly have? If I rest for 10 hours, we'll have less hours in the day. I feel rested, but now I'm not able to put in as much work. And if I rest for 4, well, I may not be able to put in work that's high quality within the time frame I'm up. But if I rest for 8 hours, well, guess what? Now I have more time and I have better quality work because I'm rested. A good practical cycle to have, life cycle, is 6 days of work, 1 day rest. That day rest is actually productive. It gets you better relationships with your family, gets you better relationship with God. It gives you time to rest your body. So in the 6 days of work, you have better inputs and you can make up for every progress you lost during the time of resting. Bottom line, potential is not some outcome you get. It's not some line you cross. No, potential is just getting better every day. Every day you're getting better, you're on the path of reaching your potential. So choose to get better every day. So you don't have the sense of guilt that Leonardo da Vinci had when he said, I offended God and mankind because my work did not reach the quality it should have. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this type of content, feel free to subscribe. I tried using my whiteboard today. Tell me if you like that in the comments. Also, if you want to learn how to reach your potential and influence, check out this book at austinmurray.com. It's called Controlling the Controllable, How Anyone Can Become Influential. And the message is when you control what you can control, you influence others to also do the same. So check that out on my website. And thank you guys for watching. See you next time.